Welcome to the Luxury Travel Innovators podcast. I'm your host, Adam Deflorian, founder and CEO of AZDS. Let's take off. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Nina Ruggiero, the Senior Editorial Director at Travel + Leisure. She oversees the brand's award-winning travel content across digital platforms and regularly appears on air as a travel expert on shows like Good Morning America and The Today Show. We have an amazing conversation about her belief in human-created content, Travel + Leisure strategy in the content differences between Instagram and TikTok, as well as a few expert tips on pet-friendly hospitality. Nina, thank you so much for visiting today and being on Luxury Travel Innovators. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, so nice to see you again. I think the last time I saw you was Vegas, maybe?
Vegas or ILTM maybe in Cannes, right?
Yep, so that's right.
Yeah, we were quite busy and had a similar view to this. Isn't this beautiful at Casa del Mar, looking at the ocean from the penthouse? It's just stunning, isn't it?
Stunning penthouse suite. I love these big picture windows.
Yeah, it's funny. With my recording on Friday with Greg Keneally, I was talking about how once you get into travel, you never leave. And I think this is part of the reason.
You absolutely cannot leave. It ruins you. There's nothing better.
It's nothing better. I mean, this is pretty good. So mind telling our listeners a little bit more about your role at Travel + Leisure?
Sure. So I'm the Senior Editorial Director at Travel + Leisure, which means I oversee our digital team, everything on site and social. So I have a hand in our projects, big and small. So temples like our World's Best Awards, down to daily breaking news and everything in between. Of course, as you know, you've seen me at all the industry events, so yep. I do all of that as well. Lots of kind of on-air travel expert moments, so kind of a mix of all of it.
Fantastic. And how did you get there? What's your story to getting into editorial and specifically travel?
Well, two things I have loved as long as I can remember have been travel and writing. So
good combination.
So I knew I wanted to make that my job very early on. I wasn't sure if it was a real job when I was younger, but I was like, if it is, that's my job. So I studied journalism in school. I actually took travel writing classes as early as college. But journalism jobs, pretty tough to get. So I did lots of other types. I did local news, I did celebrity entertainment, fashion, but no matter where I was, I'd say, can I also run the travel section if I work on the weekends? And they're like, you want to work on the weekend? And I was like, if I can do travel, yes. So that's where I started before Travel + Leisure. Then, of course, that came up and I wanted to dive right in. So I've been at Travel + Leisure for a little over 8 years now.
Oh, very nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And so what percentage would you say of the content that you guys are creating ends up both in print as well as digital form?
In the 8 years I've been at TNL, the print digital relationship and the way the content has gone back and forth has changed quite a bit. Right now, I think we're at a great place where the majority of print content goes online, but not all of it. We don't stick it up there just to stick it up there.
Yep.
It's a thoughtful process between print editors and digital editors. And lots of times, a print story will be amazing, but we'll need to kind of reformat it or build upon it or add a social video, before it goes online. And now for the first time, really in the past year or so, it's been going the other way as well, where the print team is repurposing digital content for the magazine, which is exciting.
That is exciting.
Yeah.
And do you have, would you say more contributors, more writers for digital writing or for print?
That's a good question. We both have such wide freelance networks. At any given time on digital, I'd say we're working with about 100 different people.
Oh, wow.
All stationed, throughout the world. And, that's great because at any given time we can call on an expert in Dubai or Mexico or anywhere that we're trying to cover and really lend such legitimacy to that piece.
That's fantastic. And then do you produce all of the sort of shorter form content like social and whatnot in-house, or do you also freelance that out and then there's folks that are contributing sort of almost not user-generated but professional level content that's then generated in?
So that's a mix, I would say. We have been focusing a lot lately on kind of building our internal editors' brands, and really showing the world that we are travel experts. we're traveling all the time, but you can't just assume that people know that, right? And
Totally.
the way that people consume social media now, they want to see your face. Like they want to get behind a person and, where's Nina going next? And
Exactly.
I think our followers on social know, they see Chris Dong, oh, it's going to be luxury air travel.
Okay.
They see Lydia Price, it's going to be a great travel product recommendation. So that's something we're really trying to do. But that includes external contributors because when you're in travel, of course, logistically speaking, you want people who are all around the world. So we're just kind of keeping that net a little bit smaller and showing those faces again and again and allowing them to really build their expertise.
That's great. And with that, is there, what's the association with like influencers? Obviously on social, influencers is such a key, solution, right? To position things. I mean, my wife, if an influencer that she trusts and follows says that this is a good product, dress, blouse, she buys it. I mean, it's like it's sold. There's no, it's remarkable how that works.
Yes.
Do you guys work with influencers too? How does that play into your strategy?
We do. You're right. I mean, influencer culture today that's probably the biggest change I would say in the industry since I've been in it. Right. So you have to work with them or you're going to be left behind. But I think there's sort of a sweet spot of influencer. It's not necessarily the one who has 6 million followers. It's the one who has maybe 500,000 and has a really, really engaged audience, but is still willing to work with us and kind of be a part of our brand and build upon what we have built, because TNL does have a very specific voice. And to some degree, we want to protect that.
Yeah. For our listeners, what is that voice? How do you define and separate the TNL voice? Because it is such an iconic travel brand. And I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I've subscribed to it since I was a child. So I've, seen it evolve both print and online. And I'm very curious, what defines and separates that voice?
When I first started at TNL, Nathan Lump, who you've had on this podcast, was editor-in-chief. And I remember one of the first things he told me about TNL was, we celebrate travel. And I always remember that to this day because it was, we are not going to focus time on that beach that's over-touristed and, has trash on the beach. Instead, let's highlight these other places that are amazing and the positives of travel. And I think that the voice at TNL is very positive. It encourages travel. Of course, we do kind of a mix of it all. We cover news and sometimes that's not 100% positive. But at the end of the day, we'll tell you then how to get through that issue that's happening and how to make air travel easier if there's some kind of power failure at the airport or whatever it is. Right. At the end of the day, the goal is just to encourage people to get out and see the world.
I love it. Yeah, it's inspiration, right? It's inspirational in terms of how it functions. Yes. Makes sense. I mean, you've been in media for a long time and editorial for a long time. It's changed a lot, like we just talked about. What are some of the highlights over the years of that change that you've seen? Could be for better or worse, right? I mean, but I'm just curious what you've seen sort of change over a period of time.
Yeah. So, I mean, I do these interviews sometimes, anonymous interviews with travelers. They don't know I'm from Travel and Leisure to see what is your process? Like when you're looking for trip inspiration or when you're going to book a trip. And when I've been doing them lately, it's just, I mean, we know attention spans are so much shorter. Yeah. And as someone who loves long form journalism, of course, that makes me a little bit sad, when people are like, I just want bullet points and a bunch of photos. But, we have to adapt to the times, but we're not giving up on that beautiful travel storytelling. However, we will add some summary bullet points to the top, and we will add this 10-second social video. And I think that's okay. There's something for everyone. But my favorite change that has happened, and I think it's because of AI, is that I really feel that people are seeking out human experts when it comes to travel, right? So whereas, for example, a couple of years ago, our Instagram would have just been a bunch of beautiful landscapes. Now they want to see our faces, like we were just talking about. They want to know you're a real person. If it's me, it'd be, you've been to Italy 1 million times. I want to know where you're going in Italy and what was your experience really like? And that's allowed us to really insert ourselves and our unique experiences into our stories and our videos. And I actually really love that.
Yeah, it's all about, it's that human connection, which has been a theme of Luxury Travel Innovators, has been sort of, don't lose the human connection.
Exactly.
It's like we have to, we can use tools to innovate, make things more efficient and make things better. But like, how do we connect human to human? And I think there's been, as we've sort of veered towards that AI direction, like I was just telling you earlier for our listeners, I took my first Waymo earlier, right? And it was remarkable. I mean, there was no driver and it was great. And I did it twice. And it was a little weird the first time. And then the second time I started getting used to it, right? And I think that in that direction, we are starting to get used to our tools and our technology, but we also crave human connection probably more than we ever have because of the fear of losing it.
Exactly.
And I think that's part of why in social, you guys are starting to see so much demand for human content, and also why the spike in influencers, right? Like we were just talking about, because people want to see other people's faces 100%. And they want that human, tool. Out of curiosity, we mentioned AI. I can't get through an interview without talking about it. But I'm curious, are you using it for any of those summary bullet points, or are you using it in ways, I'm sure some of your freelancers and writers use it. What do you use AI and ChatGPT for?
Yeah, so, okay, we have a very strong policy that we will not use AI to create content.
Okay.
However, we do use it to streamline workflows. For example, I think the best way we're using it right now is to alert us on what's trending across the internet, including from our competitors, right? So we have channel set up where it will tell us, this story is really taking off for the Points guy or whoever. And, that's very important for us to know. And then we'll have other ones that tell us, for you, these stories are really hitting. So here are some other ideas AI had for you. And, those ideas are still a little rough. I know they'll get better, but they do kind of get us thinking. They still take the human brain to take them and say, okay, well, you're giving us an idea about a place that doesn't quite exist. However, it reminds me of this other place that I've been to in Eastern Europe,
Totally.
So in that way, I think it's great. But I'm very strongly in favor of human-created content.
I love it. That makes sense. I mean, it's what I've been talking about with everybody is, especially in the hotel business and the luxury hotel business, there's a lot of hesitation to AI, right? Because everybody wants the personal connection. And I was talking about how in luxury, right, we have all said, and I mentioned it in the podcast, that simplicity is the ultimate form of luxury. And everybody also craves better service. So operationally, how do you use AI to provide better human service?
Yes.
To provide and do things for people more efficiently and effectively. So they still get the human touch, but they can get things that we previously might have either had to overstaff to achieve and not make it a profitable business, at least here in the Western side of the world, right? So it's interesting to kind of see how that evolves. And yeah, we're very much seeing the crawl, walk, we're getting into starting to see some stride, moving towards running. So it's interesting. I'm really intrigued to see where it goes.
Definitely. And I think for logistics and inefficiencies, to your point, we're going to have to use it. You either have to adapt to it or you're going to fall behind. So
100%. And another good example, right, is we have a lot of clients that use it for consistency checking even. Things like they always want things to be, from a tone of voice perspective, super consistent. And that's a great tool for that. I mean, it can flag things that then humans can change, or, you can leverage solutions for. So with social, how do you guys differentiate between TikTok and Instagram? Something that comes up a lot.
Yeah. So, we're basically just always paying attention to what's working on each platform. And not too long ago, we were posting every reel to TikTok and we realized, okay, that's not working. Our audiences are very different between the two. Of course, our TikTok audience is a little younger, attention span's even shorter. They like face to camera. They like, voiceovers, there's just different functionalities that, are favored on different platforms. And it's always changing on both too, right? So we are just always monitoring. And sometimes we can take kind of the same video, generally the same content, from the same trip, and just package it differently for one or the other.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. It's funny too, because everybody, I think, did that originally, right?
Yes.
Like every brand, every influencer was just posting what they had on Instagram on TikTok, and then quickly realized, why am I not building a TikTok following or audience the way that the other TikTokers who are super successful have built, right? And it was because that wasn't the content for the platform.
Yes.
It was the same as like when we used to create content calendars for social when it was new, and we used to have the same content, but slightly truncated for Twitter, X now, right? Facebook and Instagram, and and LinkedIn too.
Yeah.
It's not how you do it.
No, that's not how you do it. And I think generally TikTok's a little more raw.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instagram's not, I like the fact that Instagram is not as picture perfect as it used to be either. I think people are looking for, a real point of view, but I feel like TikTok is even more kind of unfiltered.
Yeah, definitely. And it veers. Yeah. I mean, it veers in different directions, probably wider than what, what Instagram does.
Yes.
So, what are some of your favorite destinations globally? You have the privilege of working in travel, like we talked about, which is such a privilege. And so you've been all over the world. What are some of your just personal favorite destinations?
Yeah, so I would say my 3 places that I go back to all the time would be Italy, Greece, and Mexico. And I think the thing that they have in common is really warm hospitality, really varied kind of landscapes, beautiful beaches, or you could be in wine country or, mountains, and amazing food, of course. Yeah. Outside of those 3, which I feel like I'm in all the time, I've had great trips to Southeast Asia. I just went to Australia for the first time.
Oh, nice.
I actually can't believe it took me this long, but I loved it. It was amazing. I think if it were closer to my family and friends, I would live there.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Similar climate to California or something,
Similar,
right?
yes. A lot of people told me before I go, if you love living in California, you will love Australia. And they were completely correct.
And where'd you go in Australia?
We were in Sydney, Brisbane, and in between Byron Bay.
Nice.
Everyone loves Byron Bay. It's very cool. It's like the Hemsworths are there. It's kind of hippie beach culture, but it was just beautiful. And they had actually just had a huge storm.
Oh, wow.
So everyone was warning me the beaches won't look as beautiful as they normally do. I can't even imagine what they look like without a storm then because they were stunning.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. What sort of trends are you seeing in travel that you're super excited about? We hear on the podcast, on the supplier side, at least on the hospitality side, so much about experiential travel and once in a lifetime experiences. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious what types of experiences you're seeing pop and what types of travel you're seeing.
Yeah, I think you're so right about experiential once in a lifetime. And I think that still comes from the pandemic. I think I hate to bring up the pandemic in a travel interview, but the truth is, we all have now lived through a time where we saw that travel was completely halted and that it can be taken away from us. So I think that has encouraged people to really get out into the world and, not put off that trip any longer that they've been dreaming of. And also to just really get to know the destination while they're there. And that's the experiential bit. Just sitting at a resort, we all love a good resort, but you could be anywhere, right? Yeah. So it's really, we are seeing people kind of seek out, these local experiences, whether it's, a cooking class or walking a market or, going out with a guide and just getting deeper into that destination. And I think that also plays into, at ILTM, Jackie Gifford, our editor-in-chief, and I hosted a panel about state of play, we called it. Okay. And the idea is basically that everyone's looking to just actually have fun and get more out of every trip. And sometimes that's getting out into the destination. Sometimes that's actually sometimes just at the resort, activities, not just for kids. Yes, there's a kids club and that's great, but, activities for adults too.
Totally.
And, we talk about pickleball and those types of things, but it can really go beyond that kind of hands-on cultural experiences at every hotel. It's amazing. Another thing I think is traveling for events, whether that's concerts, thank you, Taylor Swift, or sports, F1, Super Bowl, all those things. I think it's people wanting to be a part of this big, exciting moment. Yeah. And then making a whole well-rounded trip out of that. We had this one story about a TNL editor who went to Austria for a Taylor Swift concert, and then it was canceled when she got there. But it was amazing because I'm not even really a Swiftie, but these Swifties were just all meeting up in art museums and just all over the city and just turned it into this really amazing, unforgettable trip. And the concert didn't even happen.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's the connection thing, right? Mm-hmm. They have something in common and they connect through it. And it's funny because this weekend, right, is Formula One in Miami, and I'm sure it's drawing an enormous, amount of travel. And, there's the Indian Wells, tennis tournament, right? The BNP Paribas. And, I went to that, and it was amazing to see how many people that I saw at that tournament that had been to the U.S. Open or are going to Wimbledon in July. And it's that connection of similar conversations and similarity, and that you're absolutely right. And then you just build trips off of that.
100%. And to your point about Indian Wells, people who don't even really care about the sports,
Yes.
There's so much great hospitality around it. Like when you just brought up that tournament, I thought, oh, I love that tournament. I don't really care that much about tennis, but there's a Nobu there,
Yeah, exactly. It's funny. It really is. And I think they've done such a good job. The ATP in general, like the professional tennis has done an amazing job of creating that luxury, like that lifestyle experience, which even if you're not a tennis fan, I think it draws like the influencers, it draws, people in that don't even really, they're not big tennis fans, but they like the experience.
Yeah.
So
100%. Vegas doing sports now is that on the next level.
That has unbelievable potential for obvious reasons too. So amazing. What's your ultimate goal for the TNL website? Like what's your, you've been at Travel and Leisure now for a while. What would, you say would be your sort of ultimate sign of success? Like what do you want to achieve with it?
For me, my ultimate goal for the TNL website is to really turn it into a one-stop destination and travel community where you come for inspiration, you stay to get tips from other travelers in the comments, you're saving ideas, you're sharing them with your friends, and then you're booking right on our platform, right? And of course, there's money in that, as you know all about booking platforms, of course, and that's what we want to do. But I think the bigger picture is traffic's always going to be important, or it's going to be important for a very, very long time. But I think the future is engagement and creating something that people instinctively go to, again, look for ideas, but also plan their travel and book it from start to finish, that they feel that they can kind of curate a personalized experience.
Totally. Yeah. It's, I think you're absolutely right. And with a lot of our clients, it's looking at ways to show return, right? And one way to do that is engagement metrics and booking data, right? And having that type of data is like proof is in the pudding. It's not hypothetical. It's not just, this is how many eyeballs you got. It's, here's what happened. Here's the conversions that occurred. Here's the actions that people took. Here are your new followers and the quality of it. I think probably what separates you guys, honestly, from everybody else in the travel world is the quality of your audience. It's real people. Like I think there's always skepticism in marketing, especially on the digital landscape, about, am I getting real people with the right household income that actually invest in travel?
Right.
And I think that you can't argue that TNL, you have those people. You have the right people.
We do.
They're, they care, have a passion to travel, and they spend a lot on travel.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what are the demos of TNL so that our listeners know?
So, I don't think we don't share specifics.
Yeah.
However, they are high income travelers who prioritize spending money on travel. I would say, they also celebrate travel, and, it's something that they don't just take 1 or 2 trips a year, they take 5 or 6 trips a year, maybe more. They're going on multi-generational trips. Travel is their lifestyle, and they're probably traveling for business as well, but that doesn't stop them. They're on their time off. They're looking for their next destination.
Totally. Makes sense. What are some of your favorite stories over your career that you've written? Like some of your favorite edit that you've personally created?
That's a fun question. With everything else going on, I don't get to write as often as I would like to. So every time I write, I'm like, oh, I love this story. Right. This is why I got into this. I absolutely love writing about travel. I teach travel writing also on the side. So some of my favorite ones recently, I would say I went on my first safari last year. And one of my good friends, who's also a travel writer, told me a safari will change your life. And I completely agree with her now. I thought she was being a little dramatic, but it was just, it just takes you out of your everyday life more than any other trip I've ever been on. And I really loved this story in the end because so much, the animals were incredible, right? I loved being a part of that. But at the end of the day, it was the humans on that trip that really made it unforgettable. So I really tried to make that kind of come through in the story because we all hang out with hospitality people all the time, right? And it's amazing to see the level of work and passion that goes into that everywhere, all over. But wow, in Botswana, it was really something else. they were just coming up with a new surprise for us around every bend, every day. And, we keep in touch with them to this day.
Wow.
So it was amazing.
That's amazing. It's funny. That leads me to pivot to a perfect opportunity to talk about hospitality and hotel brands. What are some of your favorite hotels, either brands, independents, that you've experienced that you just think really take it to the next level?
Okay, so we've been to so many, right? We were talking about this before. We're sitting in a beautiful hotel. But one that really just, as they say, lives rent-free in my mind is Borgo Santo Pietro in Tuscany. This is, those AI-generated travel photos that you'll see now on Instagram where you're like, oh my God, that looks amazing. It can't be real. Oh, it's not real. This is that, but it's real. It's like someone went to AI and said, please build the absolute Tuscan dream and bring it to life. I mean, down to, only open roaring fires and chandeliers and candlelight and beautiful gardens, but then, just what's that Vespa doing there? It's just perfectly placed. Like everything is so perfect. But I need to, it's on my list to interview the couple who started it because I just don't know how they did it. It is completely just self-functioning. They have a vineyard, they make olive oil, they make beauty products for their spa.
Wow.
If you want gelato, there's a beautiful little gelato shop where they make everything from scratch and they have grown everything in that gelato, So, I mean, it was incredible. I wish I spent more time there and I will 100% go back. But there are so many great hotel brands, and I know many of them are your clients. Yeah. I mean, I've been to almost every montage, and I love them all. I love the kind of family, homegrown hospitality there, but luxury at the same time. I love a Rosewood. I know you just spoke to the Roccafortes. I love those as well, especially in my travels through Italy. We're so lucky.
So lucky. How about cruise? Do you do any cruises, small or large ship?
Yeah. So I haven't done a ton of cruising, but when I do cruise, what I like about it is going to destinations that just cruising gives you special access, right?
Yeah.
So, I think Alaska cruises are popular for a reason because there's no other way to see that much of the Inside Passage. I mean, I suppose you could try by land and sea, plane and all of that, but it would be very difficult and very, very, very expensive. So I love the access that cruises can give you in certain places. I was also shipwise, I was on board the Silver Sea, Silver Moon, which is not even their newest ship. About 2 weekends ago, they were docked in Port of LA.
Nice.
And, the suites are beautiful. But the thing that I was really excited about there was their culinary program. It's called SALT, Sea and Land Taste, I believe that stands for. Nice. And the idea there is it's curated based on where the ship is going, right? And you really get to experience the destination via food, which I think is just the best way to learn about a new culture, right? And it's all curated by Adam Sachs, who is a former travel journalist.
Oh, wow.
He worked for TNL, he worked for Condé Nast Traveler, and I really love seeing that point of view come to life in this different way. And, they'll take you to a local market at port, and then teach you a cooking class on board. So we did they were heading off to Hawaii. I didn't stay on, sadly, but I made poke with a local chef, and the whole menu's curated for Hawaii, and it's very cool.
That sounds amazing. And I know there's such especially in our space. I mean, I obviously talked to Sam Chamberlain from Ponant on the podcast, and that small luxury, both expedition as well as just discovery, is so it's enticing. It's very interesting. You know how they're doing it really well.
Definitely. I mean, when you talk about access, Ponant, I mean, they can get you to places that there truly is no other way.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because those small ships too, it creates that back to sense of community. It's like the theme of our whole interview. You have like-minded people on the same ship. And what Sam was saying, right, is like the ages are dropping. So like there's younger individuals on these ships that it's really neat. So
imagine a kid in school learning about science, then imagine them on a small ship to Antarctica.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are science lessons they will never forget. Yeah.
Totally. I know you have an awesome, well-traveled golden retriever named Callie with her own Instagram handle.
Travels with Callie.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite sort of pet-friendly destinations and hotels?
Well, when I moved from New York to LA back in 2019, my mom and I decided to take the opportunity to do a cross-country road trip.
Yeah.
Callie was joining us. And at first I thought, oh no, are we going to need to stay in little roadside motels because we have a dog? And that was the first time that I realized that no, nowadays you can stay in some beautiful luxury hotels with a dog. Pet-friendly travel is really accepted. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I love traveling with Callie. But on that trip, Nashville was, we think, her favorite stop. We were at the Bobby, which actually has its own resident dog in the lobby, which is something that you see often these days. But, Callie's been to the UK with me. She's been to Italy with me. And I've taken her on lots of beautiful staycations right here in California. And, California is a very dog-friendly place, right?
Yeah.
I took Callie to the Malibu Beach Inn a few weekends ago. I know you know Malibu very well. And they actually previously were not pet-friendly, but after the fires, they had taken in many families with their pets. So they've changed their policies a bit, and they are taking it to new heights because whereas, oftentimes for me, a hotel leaves something very nice like a welcome note and a bottle of champagne. That's basically what they did for Callie. There was a note to Callie welcoming her to the hotel. There were treats, a special bed, some fancy water. So pet-friendly travel has reached new heights.
Gregory Day's doing a good job.
Yes, thank you, Greg.
Of course. Overall, there's been, over the last, let's call it 60 days, some general economic sort of macro uncertainty. And, there's been sort of this sort of change in economic conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys, you talk to a lot of hoteliers, a lot of travel partners. Have you seen any changes in patterns for the summer or the fall? Anything you've been hearing or?
Well, I think because of that, we have seen a bit of a rise in domestic travel. Yeah. I think kind of outdoor travel in general has really gained in popularity, but it's also sometimes sort of a more affordable route to take.
Yep.
So we're seeing those places that offer maybe a glamping option, things like that really taking off. I think that, once things opened again after the pandemic, people were taking, and everyone was still working remotely, people were taking really long vacations. So a lot of our hotel partners were seeing longer bookings. I think that's not as much of a case anymore. But, again, I think in this world that we're in with the luxury traveler and the people who put travel at kind of the forefront of their life, people are not giving up on it. They're still traveling.
Yeah, I think Greg Keneally, the CEO of Peregrine Hospitality, said it really well on the show. He said, this is a resilient industry for the long term. It's not, we've seen travel go, draw back. We've seen pandemics and COVID, right? We've seen travel sort of reduce. Mm-hmm. It comes back. It's the most one of the most resilient sort of industries in the whole world. Because there's just no question.
We love it and we base our lives around it.
It's human connection.
Exactly. And I think that another thing that I've noticed lately is a rise in popularity in all-inclusive vacations, even luxury all-inclusive, because you used to think of all-inclusive as not high luxury.
Right.
But some luxury resorts are offering that now. And, I think this is why cruising really bounced back, because you can, go into the trip having a good idea of what you're going to come out having spent, which no matter how much money you have, sometimes, especially in a tough economy, you want to know.
Yeah, totally. And like you said, some of the experiences are really exceptional. Mm-hmm. So makes sense. So I like to finish with 3 rapid fire questions on Luxury Travel Innovators. You've talked about where you've been and what you loved, but the first question is, what personal travel that's upcoming do you have that you're most excited about?
Oh, okay. This is good timing to ask me this, actually, because my honeymoon's coming up.
Oh.
And we couldn't, so we wanted to go somewhere beachy. My husband really wanted to be in an overwater bungalow somewhere. Okay. He will be diving right in, snorkeling probably all hours of the day and night. And we wanted to go somewhere that neither of us had ever been. Okay. So when you travel this much, it can be tough. But in the end, we couldn't decide between Fiji and the Maldives. So we're doing both.
Doing both.
We're doing both.
Together or connect?
Separately.
Okay.
Yep. So one in May and one in June. And I'm really looking forward to that.
That sounds fabulous. Sounds fabulous. The show is all about moving things forward, innovation in travel, right? In an industry that sometimes does need a little bit of a shove to get forward.
Yes.
But for this question, I step back and I think, what do you miss about the glamorous days of travel? Like, what do you reminisce and when you think back on how travel used to be, what do you miss?
So I will say, I unfortunately don't feel that I am old enough to have truly experienced the real golden days of travel. However, the one thing that I really do remember is dressing up for a flight.
Yeah.
And, I definitely experienced that as a kid because my mom worked for United Airlines and we used to fly standby a lot. So it was a roller coaster. You might be in first class with an ice cream sundae, which as a kid, that's what I looked forward to.
Yeah.
Or you might not get on the flight at all and your summer vacation's not happening today. So I remember having to dress up and I do miss that because nowadays so many people work from home and all of that. And it's like athleisure everywhere, every day, no matter what. I like it when it was an event.
I totally agree. It was like my grandfather always used to travel in a suit,
yes.
Even a tie, and and I always like going in a sport coat like this and being, I totally agree with you. And now you're definitely in the minority when you wear this. I mean, everybody else is,
Yeah.
So I don't even think they really. There's rare occasions they still do, but I don't think they ask you for your jacket in first class anymore. I mean,
rarely
to hang it the way they used to,
Yeah.
So, what innovation in travel doesn't exist today that you think is missing? And it doesn't have to be technology. We were in one of our podcasts with Jan Arnold with Roccaforte. He said properly sized luggage carts, the ones that you can put your bag on when you get to a hotel. They're always too small.
That's a great
They don't
one.
open up. It was like anything.
Can I go really pie in the sky dream here? Okay. So I've seen these kind of Airbus concepts where a plane is not actually divided by class. It's divided by sort of activity or lifestyle, So there's a section for business meetings and then there's a section for relaxing and, there's of course a good bar and whatnot. So that is my ultimate dream because we spend so much time on planes and, I get lots of good work done on planes, but I'd love to have my options. But I will say I am happy that some people I think would say, oh, I missed the time when I was unreachable on a plane.
Yeah.
I get that. I totally do. But I am happy that in-flight Wi-Fi is getting better because seriously, I got all my best work done on planes.
Yeah, exactly. No, I totally agree. You can actually be efficient. When the Wi-Fi is broken on a plane, for me, it's not about not being able to be reached. If you want to, you turn it off, right? Mm-hmm. But the fact that you can actually work and not be just completely having to catch up when you arrive somewhere, especially on a long haul, you go to Dubai on a 16-hour flight and you're not connected. You land with 5,000 emails. You're going to be up for 9 hours responding to those instead of being able to go to bed and going with an empty inbox.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Nina, thank you so much for joining me on Luxury Travel Innovators. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. This was so much fun. Love talking about travel.
I'm so glad you liked it. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching this episode of Luxury Travel Innovators. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. See you next time.